Okay, ladies and gentlemen, as always, you know I have to take an L in this video. A wide receiver that I didn't like coming into this season all of a sudden is a massive buy low candidate because the situation has entirely changed for the better. But before we get into it, go down there, drop a like on the video. Subscribe to the channel if you play fantasy football. If you have any questions, feel free to drop them down there in that comment section. And of course, in that comment section, you can find a link to Underdog Fantasy where there are all these awesome player props. And when you sign up for Underdog with promo code FLOCK, they're going to match your first deposit dollar for dollar up to 100. So make sure you take advantage of that. My favorite player prop for Thursday night is actually going to be the PJ Walker to less than 181 receiving yards with the nasty weather. And it's PJ Walker. Like, come on. Now, let's dive into these receivers. I want to start off with someone we talked about all week. It's super brief. Buy low guy for us last week. Buy low for us guy a couple weeks back. Garrett Wilson. Okay, you've heard me talk about him a million times over, but with Garrett Wilson, you need to know Elijah Moore only plays in the slot now. Elijah Moore is only on the field in clear 3 wide receiver sets. Elijah Moore had 0 targets this past week. Garrett Wilson in a very tough matchup against the Buffalo Bills where there was really no passing volume to be had in New York. Still went out there. It was phenomenal. 9 targets and 92 receiving yards. We clearly saw the ceiling earlier on in the season if there's passing volume in this offense. I mean, as of late, it's been very tough matchups for Zach Wilson and the New York Jets where they went up against Buffalo, New England, Denver. But earlier on in the season, whenever they were effectively able to move the ball down the field with Joe Flacco, not saying they were a better offense, but there was more passing volume. There were more passing yards per game. I mean, you had 14 targets, 11 targets for Garrett Wilson, indicating that true upside if this offense is elevated. Now he has a higher percentage of this offense. And hell, he was a phenomenal prospect coming out of Ohio State. So we have to go ahead. We have to throw Garrett Wilson on this bad boy as we've been talking about him nonstop. Now let's go over to someone that we have not been talking about much. We're going to talk about 2 players here just to have you get out your phone. I mean, my phone's not near me, but set a little reminder there saying, hey, in a few weeks, let's check out that Hollywood Brown price tag. Hell, let's see what Jamar Chase cost next week. Don't trade for Chase this week. There's really nothing that's going to happen to change his price. Obviously, he's on buy. I don't want you to go out there and trade a productive asset where you could have started said wide receiver. Like, don't trade Jalen Waddle for Jamar Chase this week. Start Jalen Waddle this week and then trade him for Jamar Chase the week after. You know, Jalen Waddle, my favorite wide receiver, just using him as an example. But with Chase, this was an option that they could have put on the IR. They decided not to. The last time he played was October 23rd. So after the bye week this week, honestly, since they decided not to put him on the IR, I would assume that he still misses week 11. But there's a possibility that he plays. I mean, I don't know. And if all of a sudden at the end of the week, he's getting in limited practices, that buy window on Jamar Chase will be completely shut off. With Hollywood Brown, you probably have a little bit longer. Hollywood Brown, last time he played was October 16th, but obviously the foot injury sounds a little more serious. Hollywood Brown will be more so a play for the fantasy football playoffs. And the context of trading for Hollywood Brown will be in a league where obviously you're a team that's heading towards the fantasy football playoffs, where at the same time, it's a deeper format where maybe you have a 12-team league with 2 to 3 flex spots. If you play in that 12-team league with 2 to 3 flex spots, even with DeAndre Hopkins in Arizona, I think Hollywood Brown would be a phenomenal buy low candidate that you could get in there as a wide receiver that has high-end wide receiver 2 appeal, even with DeAndre Hopkins. But now going over to someone that I will buy in any situation, Mark Andrews, a tight end that the last time you had a respectable game from him was October 16th against the Giants. I mean, with Mark Andrews against Tampa, obviously he goes down. He only gives you 33 receiving yards and 3 receptions. The week prior, he doesn't really play. I mean, gives you a total of 0 fantasy points. So I would imagine the Mark Andrews owner is pretty frustrated at the moment. But with this bye week, I'm assuming that Mark Andrews is going to be able to get fully healthy. Keep in mind, we said the same thing about DeAndre Swift, so I don't know if you should be trusting me here. But operating under the assumption that Mark Andrews should be healthy coming out of the bye, I would make the argument where Andrews was the tight end 2 previous to his injury. Maybe he's in a better situation now. Because if you have Rashad Bateman ruled out for the rest of the season, I know a lot of people are very excited about Isaiah Likely. A lot of people think that Isaiah Likely is going to be significantly more involved in the second half, and very easily he could be. But it's not going to be at the expense of Mark Andrews. What they would end up doing is running significantly more two tight end sets. I wouldn't be so surprised if the run-first Baltimore Ravens lead the NFL in two tight end sets in the second half of the year with the Isaiah Likely breakout. But more importantly, because with no Rashad Bateman, this is going to be a team that needs to heavily look to the tight end position to flood targets to. Trust me, I love Devin Duvernay, hook 'em horns, but he's never going to be a wide receiver consistently getting a 25% team target share. I think Andrews is in a better situation than he was before the injury, with Bateman being ruled out for the year. I think he's still right alongside Travis Kelce, and it seems like you're able to get him for that discount because, hell, he hasn't given you a good game in a month, but he should be healthy afterwards. Now, going over to a couple wide receivers that were both sell high guys for us earlier in the year, and I hate to do this. I don't like flip-flopping back and forth from sell high to buy low, sell high to buy low, but sometimes it's just so obvious. Gabriel Davis and Devonta Smith. Now, I view both these wide receivers in a very similar light. Both of these receivers are players that do not see consistent targets, given the fact that they have to play alongside Alpha X wide receivers in their offenses. We know Stephon Diggs is going to get 10 targets a game. We know A.J. Brown's going to command at minimum a 25% team target share. We know those are the two Alpha X wide receivers, and those are guys you can play almost regardless. However, with Gabe Davis and Devonta Smith, despite playing in offenses with top tier talents, they are still going to be viable in fantasy in individual weeks. They are going to give you massive spike weeks because of A, the talent profile of those individual players, and B, the fact that they're playing in some of the best offenses in the entire NFL. So if we were looking at Gabriel Davis, when were we screaming to sell him high? We are screaming to sell Gabriel Davis high. I mean, after week 1, after the Pittsburgh game, after the Kansas City game, it's easy. Essentially, if Gabe Davis has that long touchdown reception, if Gabe Davis has a touchdown at all, it's probably going to revert back to the mean a couple weeks after. However, we know that you're going to occasionally get those massive spike weeks. So it's really easy to see that Gabriel Davis is essentially the same player the entire season when he's coming off a massive week. Because I view him as the same guy the entire year, I will be lower than consensus on him and will be looking to sell high. However, if he has a few games in a row where 2 receptions, 33 receiving yards, 2 receptions, 35 receiving yards, where he's not giving you anything, but the targets have not changed. Look at the targets throughout the entire season. He's a player getting 5, 6, 7 targets every given contest. He's the same guy. The only thing is he's a little bit on a cold streak. And if you wanted to add a player like this, this is the time. Same thing with Devonta Smith. With Smith here, I kind of view them as identical options. If you're seeing Devonta Smith come off a game where it's 169 receiving yards and the receiving touchdown, you probably should understand, okay, A.J. Brown's still in this offense. It's going to happen that often. But if he has a few down games, 22, 23 receiving yards, I've had some people in the live streams asking if they should cut Devonta Smith. Like, what are y'all talking about here? Please just take the punches and move on. Now, our next guy on every buy low video, so we'll be very brief, Amon-Ra St. Brown. We've had some people in the live chat asking, okay, should we panic on Amon-Ra St. Brown? I was kind of blindsided by these questions that we were getting this week. I thought people would be completely fine with what they've had from Amon-Ra St. Brown the past 2 weeks. With Amon-Ra St. Brown over the past 2 weeks, he's had 19 targets. He's had 11 receptions. He's had about 120 receiving yards. Now, yes, he hasn't scored a touchdown in quite some time. Yes, you have not seen a receiving touchdown since week 2 for Amon-Ra St. Brown. That's very frustrating. But we go back to what you had at the end of last season. Amon-Ra St. Brown is still a wide receiver that can go out there and give you that touchdown upside any given week. And on top of this, with Amon-Ra St. Brown, what is so much more important is the fact that his situation is better than it was at the beginning of the season. You have no TJ Hawkinson now. You also have DJ Chark on the IR. You don't know when and if you're getting Jamison Williams back. Like, the situation for Amon-Ra St. Brown is better now than it was earlier on in the year. However, because he hasn't scored a touchdown in quite some time, I guess people are no longer viewing him as an elite receiver. He's still a top 10 guy. Please do not worry. Now, our next wide receiver is the guy we were talking about previously. Someone that I did not like coming into the season, but now it's hard not to get excited about him. Allen Lazard. So with Allen Lazard, yes, coming into the season, we were talking about the fact that there were a lot of wide receivers here. I mean, you didn't really have one alpha wide receiver like Devonta Adams that was going to command every single target. Didn't really know who the wide receiver one was going to shake out to be, whether that's Randall Cobb, Christian Watson, Romeo Doubs, Allen Lazard, or if it even mattered at all. Like, I was not an Allen Lazard fan coming into the season. However, if you would have told me coming into the year, Mason, just a heads up, you are going to have a Randall Cobb injury that puts him on the IR. Just heads up, you are going to have Romeo Doubs with a high ankle sprain, where he's going to miss a significant amount of time. Just heads up, you're going to have 2 hamstring injuries for Christian Watson and 2 concussions. I'd be all in on Allen Lazard. I would be taking him in every single draft possible. Now, with the wide receiver core being absolutely destroyed in Green Bay, whoever is the last wide receiver standing to be the wide receiver one in this offense will be able to get to a 25% team target share. Of course, he's never going to be Devonta Adams. Of course, the Green Bay Packers offense is still very bad. But once we remove Christian Watson, Romeo Doubs, Randall Cobb, and there's nobody else to really get targets, and you even have Aaron Jones banged up a bit, Allen Lazard is an interesting buy low guy for me. I mean, outside of his first week coming back into the NFL this year, remember, he himself suffered an injury right at the beginning of the season. There he had 3 targets, but we can remove that. That was his first week back, clearly not healthy. After that, 6, 8, 8, 9, 7, and 10 targets. He's consistently giving you 8 targets a game, and now his situation's gotten even better. So I think Allen Lazard is an intriguing pickup. Now, one guy that I want to say I'm no longer as low as I was on, Michael Pittman. Like, you know, we've been saying to go through and sell Michael Pittman since before the season even started. I thought Michael Pittman was dramatically overvalued. Please, if you are a Michael Pittman owner, while I think you probably shouldn't have drafted him, don't go through and just sell for anything. I mean, we've had some people asking if they should be selling him for someone like Curtis Samuel. I'm not telling you to buy Michael Pittman, but I just want to give an update on where we previously stood, where previous to this, he was a sell for anything you could get. Now the value's gone down so damn much because, yes, there's a lot going on in Indianapolis, but in reality, while, yes, maybe the Indianapolis Colts may be looking like they're packing it in, they have so far this season been a bottom 5 team in points scored. I think a bottom 3 team in points scored. So while it's very scary going forward, it can't be much worse than it already has been. So if you like Pittman coming into this season, you should probably be fine with him now. Don't sell him at a 75% discount with everything going on in Indy, because the situation's been bad all year. Now, I think that's all I got for y'all. Of course, thank you so much for checking out this video. If you have not done so already, go down there, drop a like on the video, subscribe to the channel if you play fantasy football. If you have any questions, feel free to drop them down there in the comment section. I'll try to answer as many of those as I possibly can. And also in the comment section, you can find that link to Underdog Fantasy where you can check out all these cool player props. When you sign up for Underdog with promo code FLOCK, they're going to match your first deposit dollar for dollar up to $200, available in damn near every state. But thank you again. I appreciate you. I hope you have a great day, and hope we get to see you in the live stream tonight.